Am I wrong for kicking my brother out for announcing his wife's pregnancy right after I announced my daughter had cancer? Just to make sure I represent both sides of the conflict, my brother and his wife suffered from not having kids for years. It impacted them greatly. They love the kids in the family but always wish to have kids of their own. Lately, we got busy with my daughter Megan, who is 12, with health problems. She started suffering from anemia, loss of appetite, and recurrent fevers. We've taken her to the pediatrician, and from there we've learned that she has cancer. It was so devastating, I didn't want to tell my family right away. Most of them have chronic conditions, and this type of news might trigger a negative reaction because they love Megan and would give everything to see her healthy. My husband and I decided to gather the family at my house this past Wednesday to announce Megan's diagnosis. My aunt didn't take it well because she holds Megan dear, so she was rightfully the most devastated one. After a few minutes of complete silence, my brother started moving in his seat, saying there's something very serious he wanted to tell everyone. He was hesitant, but then he and his wife stood up, and then he said that they found out that they were finally expecting. The family were conflicted. Some got up to congratulate them, and some remained seated. I remained seated, and my brother then approached me and expressed how sorry he was that they had to tell us in these circumstances, but said he couldn't wait since this is a huge deal for them after years of waiting and because everyone was present. Literally everyone was there since I said the announcement we wanted to make concerned Megan. I argued with him about how he thought this was an appropriate time and asked if Megan mattered to him at all since he didn't take a minute to realize she was just diagnosed with cancer. He started reminding me how many years he and his wife suffered from frustration and disappointment for not being able to have kids, and argued that because he wasn't able to be a father until now, he's 37, he felt he was missing out on so much for many years, and that I didn't have to finally tell him congratulations, but should at least not guilt him for feeling overwhelmed and excited to finally be a father. He said I knew exactly how much he adores Megan and I shouldn't even think otherwise. Then said he was just sharing good news after hearing the bad news and there was nothing wrong with that. I told him and his wife to leave the house right then. He said he won't argue anymore because of how tense I felt, but will expect me to apologize at some point. Some family agreed with me, but my parents thought I shouldn't have taken my anger out on him like that, and that he'll always remember my reaction to the news he gave and should apologize after I've calmed down. So, was I wrong for my reaction?
If a genie ever came up to me and they said, I'm going to give you one chance to go back in time and just change one decision, only one, and make a better choice, this is the one that I would pick. I used to date this guy and he was into bodybuilding. And like most male bodybuilders, he didn't have any hair on his body anywhere. And let me tell you, his legs were smooth. And so one day I finally just asked him, I said, I got to know, how do you make your legs so smooth? And he said, Nair and baby oil. And so next day I go to PX, I pick me up some, I come home, and I got that disease that prohibits me from reading the instruction manual on anything. I have to fail a minimum of one time before I ever read an instruction manual. And so I just start lathering myself up with that. I cover my whole body. I got everything except for my head covered in that stuff. And I just wait a little bit. When it starts burning just a little bit, I jump in the shower, I wash it off, I get out, I just lather myself up with some baby oil. A couple hours later, I decided it's time for me to go to the gym. And when I lived in Okie, I would just, jog down to the gym. It was downhill and get me a warm-up in. And if you know anything about Okinawa, you know that if you even think about going outside, you are going to sweat because it is so humid. And I get outside and I start my little jog, and as I'm jogging, I start sweating. And as I'm sweating, things start to burn. Things that should never, ever, ever experience a burn. And the further I go, the more it starts burning. By the time I get to the gym, it feels like someone had stuck a firecracker up my rear end. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to decide that I was not going to be working out that day. So I turned around and I ran my happy self right back up to my barracks room. And when I get there, everything in my no-no square is hotter than a steel playground at recess, and I don't know if I'm sweating from the humidity or from the pain, but all I know is that when I pick up that bottle and read it, there are big bold letters that say, do not use in genital areas. And I promise you, from that day forward, I have read every instruction manual I could ever find on anything I have ever bought. After watching I Know What You Did last summer, I was inspired to confess this secret before someone else does. Last summer, I had just got done eating some Mexican food with some friends, and I decided to go to the Walmart to pick up a few things. And as I'm walking around Walmart, I get this pain in my belly, and I realize that it's gas from the Mexican food. And the longer I'm walking around, the worse it's getting. And so I'm standing in this aisle, and I look around, and I realize no one's around, and I make the executive decision to just let it out. And it sounds like when you let the air out of an air mattress. It went on forever. I thought it was never going to end. It finally did, and I look over and I realize there's this lady coming down my aisle. And it is becoming more and more apparent that while the sound was silent, the smell was not. And it is loud, and it is proud, and it stinks. And I could have just taken off, but then she'd have known for sure that it was me. So I decided to stand there. She comes up, and she's looking at some things, and I said, is it just me, or does this aisle smells bad, like something might have died under there? And she, bless her heart, takes a big old sniff. Oh, you're right. It does kind of smell. It smells bad. And I'm like, that's what I thought. It smells like something might have died. And I'm like, yeah, it's safe. She believed it. And no, All of a sudden, her husband walks up and he's standing there, and immediately he goes, "What's that smell? Is that you?" And she, does one of them cute little things where she smacks him, and she's like, "It wasn't me." She said, "We were just talking about how it smells. It smells like something might have crawled under there and died." And he said, "Well, something definitely died. I'm about ready to cry. I just want to die right then and there." And then this sweet man says, "Well, we ought to go let somebody know so that they can come take care of it." I said, "You know what? Yeah, it's a good idea. I think I saw someone a couple aisles over." I took off so fast. I walked as fast as I possibly could without looking like I was stealing something. I walked right out and straight to my car, and I died right then and there. So, ma'am, sir, you seem like nice people, and I just want to offer my sincerest apologies, because the only thing that died in that aisle was what little bit of dignity I had left and whatever died inside of me and came out. It has haunted me every day since. I'm sorry.
My friend went on a date last night that was so fucking brutal that I had to bring it to TikTok immediately, mostly because it's a funny story, but also as a warning to the women in Toronto that this man is walking our streets, ladies. I'm gonna preface this by saying my friend is very good looking and not insecure. She meets a guy on Hinge and she vets him. They talk on the phone every day for a week, they FaceTime, whatever, and then eventually they decide to go out for dinner. Last night, they go to Myth. Everything's going well, except when they sit down, there's a table of girls next to their table, and the guy keeps talking to the table of girls. Gets to the point where every time my friend goes to the bathroom, the guy is over at the girls' table, or one of the girls is over at her table. It happens multiple times, and one of the girls says to my friend, "Oh, you're so hot, don't worry about this." Meaning, you're so hot, don't worry that the guy you're on a first date with is talking to this table of girls and at their table every time you take a pee. It's multiple times, and then the guy says to my friend, "Sorry, those girls are just pumping my tires," as in complimenting me so much. Like, eventually he goes, "Are you mad?" And she's like, "I just think it's strange on a first date to not just say, 'Thank you, ladies, but I'm on a first date.'" And not for anything, but like, those girls are kind of whack too, because why would you go up to a table of a girl on a date with a guy and just hit on the guy all night? That's insane. Every time she goes to the bathroom, like, go and sit with him or make him come sit with you. Like, that's fucking bizarre too. But anyway, they get in a miniature fight, they get over it. He goes, "Let me drive you home." She's like, "Okay." Get in the car, and he goes, "It's so funny how mad you got when those girls were hitting on me." And she's like, "Yeah, sorry, I think it's crazy you were talking to them." And he goes, "You didn't even thank me for dinner." She's like, "Yeah, maybe I forgot to thank you for dinner because I was too busy wondering what the fuck was going on." And then he brings up something else. Like, he's trying to fight with her. And then she goes, "You know what, man? I don't even know you. I'm not doing this with you. Just let me out here." They're like on the side of the highway. Like, they're at Queens Quay and Jarvis. Like, she gets out at the Loblaws. Calls an Uber. The Uber takes 17 minutes to come. So by the time the Uber's there, she's like crying. She gets in the car. The Uber driver's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Uber driver literally comforts her the whole way home. Like, is just like, "Tell me what happened." God bless Uber drivers and cab drivers. I used to be an Uber driver, and the shit people would tell me in my Uber, fucking grown men crying about their divorces. It's crazy. Anyway, Uber driver takes her home, walks her to her door. It's like, "Don't worry, this ride was on me. Your night was bullshit, and fuck that guy." A, never use paying for dinner against someone on a date. Just don't go on a date then if you don't like that custom. B, if you need the girls at the next table to gas your tires while you're already on a date with a hot girl to feel like a fucking man, I can't help you. That's just insecurity. And he said to my friend, "Oh, you're just insecure." Like, gaslit her. No, she's not. She's the hottest fucking loser.
All right, story time. So today at my daughter's school was bring your parents to school day, right? Basically, all the parents could come in, sit in class, see how their kids do in the class setting, see how the teacher's doing, and just kind of get a general feel of what goes on in that classroom. So sure enough, I went to go check out Riley's class today, right? So we're sitting in class, everything's good. I said to the teacher, "Hi teacher, how are you now?" "Not so bad, and you?" So all the parents are sitting in the back of the classroom. All the kids are smiling, teacher's smiling, parents are all looking at the kid, like waving and stuff like that. Riley's just doing her thing. I'm just like, Jesus Christ, let's hurry this along. So first things first, obviously the teacher looks at me, looks at Riley, and asks Riley, "Listen, how do we know the earth is round?" I was like, oh God, here we go. So Riley picks her head up, kind of like, a little shocked. She says, "We don't know if it's round. And a second thing, I never said that." Oh, the parents looked at me. I'm like, well, she didn't say that. So the teacher, looking a little bit frustrated, said, "You know what? We're not even going to go there. We're going to point at objects and you got to guess what they are." So she says, "Riley, I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself. What's this?" And she points at a fire detector. Riley says, "Oh, that's how mommy knows supper's done." At this point, I'm red. I'm embarrassed. The parents are all looking at me. I said, "What? She's outside the box thinker. Leave her alone. Leave me alone. So the teacher, being all frustrated in front of the other parents, she wants to get control of this child, which is my child. Says, listen, Riley, I'm going to ask you one more question. I know you know the answer to this. Here we go. So now her and the teacher are having like this intense stare down, right? I'm sitting there like, oh my God, please get this right. The parents are looking at me, judging me. I'm just trying to get the hell out of here and go to work. Said, Riley, okay, here's the question. Why did Joseph and Mary bring Jesus to Jerusalem? Okay? And at this point, it's intense, man. My heart's pounding. I'm like, please just answer it right. Please just answer it right. Please just answer it right. Parents are looking at me. Teacher's looking at her. Everyone's like beating sweat, right? After a long pause, Riley says, I know the answer. I know this one. I know this one, teacher. I'm like, oh, thank God. And the answer is, and before she can even finish the sentence, Riley says, because they couldn't find a babysitter. I'm done. I left.
Something crazy just kind of happened, and I want to share it. For those who don't believe in anything beyond the grave, maybe this will give you some hope. My best friend was murdered this year by her boyfriend, and I obviously haven't healed from that. And I was just like tidying up my things and cleaning the cat litter box and, you know, just all that shit while I was listening to music that she used to listen to. She was still using my YouTube at the time of her death, and I still have access to a lot of her music. And I just had these like crazy chills. All the hair on my arms was just like standing up, and it wasn't just for like a couple seconds, it was for like multiple songs. And I had this like uncontrollable urge to just laugh, which is something that she would constantly do for no reason. She laughed all the time. Her laugh was ridiculous. And I thought, you know, maybe she's here with me right now. So I said, Amanda, if you're really here, I'm gonna need a bigger sign than that because I'm not convinced. The next song that plays is Drops of Jupiter. She listened to it all the time. And I wasn't even like paying attention really, but the song skips. Like it just skips like forward. I wasn't touching that at all, so I don't know why or what happened. I'm just gonna play it because this is just, it's crazy to me, and when I tell you I froze, I fucking froze. Like, I was just full of chills. All the hair on my body was just standing up. And you know, just that feeling that you get when you're in somebody's presence, but like a particular person that you hang out with all the time. You have a certain feeling. I can't explain it, yeah. Felt the way that I felt when she was still here and we were just like chilling on a couch. And I just had this vision like of us like sitting on the couch at my old apartment together. I don't care if anybody thinks I'm crazy. Yeah.
This man convinced a 12-year-old girl that he was a 300-year-old werewolf, and then they murdered her family. This happened in Alberta, Canada in 2006. Jasmine Richardson was a wholesome Catholic school honor student until she met 23-year-old Jeremy Steinke at a mall. Soon after this, the two of them began chatting online. Jeremy called himself the Soul Eater and wore a vial of blood around his neck. Jasmine's parents found the chats between the two of them and grounded her, but she still managed to sneak out and be with Jeremy. He wrote her love notes via email, one of them saying, "You are a sight for sore eyes. I miss you more than killing people. Can we get together and kill people together?" After her parents learned about that conversation, they took her computer away and began going to family counseling. After this, Jasmine seemed to be calming down, so her parents gave her her computer back with a stern warning to stay away from Jeremy. On April 23, 2006, a 911 call was placed by Jasmine's neighbors after a young boy had shown up on their porch. The boy had went over to the Richardsons' house to play with Jasmine's 8-year-old brother. When he couldn't get a hold of the family's phone, he went over to the house and peeked into the basement window where he saw what he believed was a body. Once police arrived, they went inside and found a bloodbath. The bodies of Deborah and Mark were found in the basement. Mark had been stabbed 24 times and Deborah 12. Upstairs, they found 8-year-old Jacob with his throat cut. One of the investigators noticed a photo of